Hello everyone, this is the Method News Update number 7. Uh, we are your hosts, Killer and Rain Dog here. We're going to go right into the rank 1 spot, with that being Avengers by quite a large lead. Again with Gucci, Tie23, Crying, and Kamel. We still have Gucci at 96, just farming those delves, trying to get those map pools even larger for Crying. We do have Crying at level 99 now, as of recently. And then Tie23 was playing an Elementalist Winter Orb respect into Occultist Curse support. Interesting to see that they didn't opt to put Kamel in the support there, but I think it's the right decision, as they do need to constantly be putting out that currency, which Kamel has been doing so well. In the past few, I have messed up the map strategy ever so slightly, and so here you can see that Tie23 and Althcrying are mapping together once again. Their map, or their choices of maps, are pier, shaped toxic sewer, shaped villa, shaped wharf, and elder underground seas for that tier 16. It does appear like Gucci is not going any deeper down into the delve, but he is going from left to right looking for those cities while remaining fairly safe. Definitely the right call there. Tie23 once again playing the 5 links smite setup. Not much has changed for this lineup, but definitely super nice to see Tie23 back on his feet again and keeping Crying safe during those tier 16s. Going on tier 2 here, the tier 2 team, we do have Monkey Squad in second place, really just being held down by Rathalos, the glue of this team. Rathalos is at 98 and getting close to 98 and a half. He is playing that Isla Righteous Fire build on his 6th link, as we mentioned last time. Not too much is known about this team, but we did figure out that Ventura is 94 in those delves, although it didn't really take much figuring out, just a little look at PoE racing. It does appear like Heschler ripped with little to no intention of rerolling once again, and then Leaf has died with and he's going back up at level 22. I do believe that's his second death there. Everybody but Rathalos dying on this team will be pretty heartbreaking to see Rathalos here. If he were to fade out, but I don't think that'll be the case, as he is super safe with that Isla Righteous Fire build, and as long as he gets adequate sleep, he should be able to secure top 3 fairly easily, if not definitely. As far as their mapping strategy, again, it's just feeding resources into Rathalos. I believe Heshla, Ventura, and Leaf all just feeding those maps in. Possibly Elder Underground Seas. I do see him in there quite a lot. He is in Toxic Sewers quite a lot, actually. So it is possible that it's not Elder Underground Seas, it's Elder Toxic. So that's yet to be seen until he discloses that fact. Going on to the third and last team here, we have Team Method. Definitely some upsets, as for we mentioned in the previous news update here. We do have Zizaran re-rolling already at that level 85 on the Aura support. We do have Havoc 616 as the Winter Orb carry, pushed from 92 to 94 today. Steel Mage still farming up currency, and Nugian level 2 after his unfortunate root. I mean, they just had a horrible day here. Really, Zizaran dying at level 98. He was rank 2 for a decent amount of time. Havoc re-rolling earlier in the race just so that he can support Zizaran, only for Zizaran to get absolutely obliterated in that super dangerous map. I'm fairly surprised that Nugian actually died in a map. I really thought that going down into those deep delves, he would end up dying. But as I mentioned in the last podcast, is that Nugian does put himself at quite high risk situations because he wasn't using that life flask. But with the two carries dead, it is on the shoulders of Havoc here to pull his group back together, and so it will be interesting to see if they can pull out that third place slot. The only potential fourth place team that we would put here would be Bogdanov, Pump It, I believe. But as the profiles are still private, it is very difficult to get a lead on what they're doing. Rain Dog, what do you think of these teams?
So yesterday's big news was definitely Dynamite just quitting right out, and today is Team Method. And they were actually in first place just a few seconds. I think they decided to push until they passed crying and then going to bed. And they seemed actually pretty certain that if they didn't rip, they would actually win this. I'm not sure that's true, but that he claimed that at least. And they did a very solid push. when they started getting up, Sis was doing a solo underground C with double beyond, a Val tier 16 with crit, and he basically just got splattered by everything. And then they spent a few hours trying to set up Nugian as their carry, leveling gems, him getting used to the Winter Orb, Sis leveling. It didn't really look like their hearts were into it because Nugian was actually doing boss killing and setting up TPs for Ciceron, and he should probably have been pushing if they really wanted to get ahead, but he was quite far behind, so it was probably just trying to keep up appearances. And of course, it's their sponsor hosting the race, and this is the first race, so they sort of feel like they need to perform. So while doing this, Nugian actually was very close to dying by running into a reflect map with the Winter Orb and just barely get out. So that was quite a big scare. And eventually he did die. And basically, I think they were like, okay, let's just try to push Havoc and see if you're able to do that. He's pushing with a +2 tabula that Nugian used to delve. And I think they basically just regrouping tomorrow. I think they said trying to figure out what they want to do if they really want to put themselves through this like probably 20 more hours of push for like probably a third place.
It definitely is pretty tragic to see Method here falling apart. I'm not quite sure if this has to do with the RNG or the bad RNG that they've had throughout the run, or just the lack of planning, but potentially just a bit of both.
I would say go like they were doing high X speed, but they were also doing super high risk map. That was a super dangerous map with Ciceron's life pool. So to keep on going, we have Althcrying, who's keeping in front of Wrath. Looking at the XP graph, Wrath is actually getting slightly more XP when he's online, but he sleeps for about 1 hour more. So he's actually they're sort of breaking even. And you said that you talked with the guys, and they're probably just gonna do the last level in one push.
Mhm.
So, and it looks like the rat actually went to bed. So I think this is basically in the bag unless our crying fucks up and dies. And he got his support now, and he's got camel rolling maps, fixing gear, grinding that chaos recipe, and Gucci on delve. Like when nobody's pushing you really hard, you don't really need to take those risks. So unless you hit some very low probability circumstance, I find it very likely that Avenger will just take this home.
Yeah, definitely. Watching Crying play for a little bit, it does not seem like he's rolling those super scary double beyond maps. He is putting bloodlines on every map to not only help with the map sustain, but also get that extra experience. I really do like what you mentioned with Kamel rolling maps, as once you get your map pool large enough, you do want to just have this ever rotating like factory of running maps constantly. Whereas for a large portion of the race, Crime was actually rolling his maps one by one, which in a long endurance style race like this, I do think it's a, I don't want to say a mistake, but a little bit of a misplay there. It's only
Yeah, that's
a slow, a tiny bit of a speed difference, but definitely rolling those maps all at once makes it way less scary, as well as just making it quicker in the end of it.
and also then you have the double check for the reflect and everything. And
Hmm.
it was quite funny. I was looking at our crying stream, and he was just showing off his map tab with pre-rolled maps, and it's like, does anybody need to buy? Because they had just so many tier 15s. It's they're not running out in any way, shape, or form. I think.
Yeah, definitely. What are your thoughts on Team Rathalos here, or sorry, Monkey Squad, but Team Monkey Squad here.
It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, Roth just got his six link, so he's going like it looks like he's getting slightly more XP than crying when he's pushing hard, but it's still, as I say, it looks like he's taking a break now, and it's gonna take a miracle for them to like get back to this. It doesn't look that much when you look at the XP graphs, but it's probably like close to 4 hours ahead or something, and there's probably like less than 10 hours left in the race. So it's like a quite significant margin.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only way Rathalos can get that rank one spot is in the case that Althcrying dies, and just accepting that fact is it's very difficult to do as a racer, knowing that you will only get second place. But that does allow him to get that nice amount of sleep, be able to push for that 100 in the next sitting, and know that he's going to be safe doing so because he's not going to be playing on half an hour of a nap or something.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if it was a joke, but they're like after after Sis ripped, they were writing to him, crying, I think, and asked him if they're like uh, if they wanted to make a truce and have a few hours of sleep.
Yeah, I did see. I think that one was a meme. They were talking about Crying was asking Rathalos if he was going for that rank one spot, to which Rathalos said, "Of course." So definitely pretty nice there, but it does seem like there's a bit of a discrepancy between the top two. So I would say that the best course of action here for Rathalos would just be to play that safe. Get that nice amount of sleep, maybe like 5 or 6 hours. Well rested, and just push on for the 100 right after.
You could make the argument that crying is very unlikely to die if he's not pushed. So, as I said, he's making slightly more XP when online. So if he's able to like take a higher risk himself, he can sort of force a crying to take a little more risk. But as I said, the lead is quite comfortable, so it's probably not gonna fall.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just looking at the standings here, the amount of skulls on the Avengers page being just one, looking at Monkey Squad and seeing it's over, 6, 7, and then obviously Method over here with every member dying at least once is a little disheartening.
Yeah, yeah, and you can clearly see like their one support died, and that's almost to be expected when you're mapping high tier maps and you're trying to put all your effort to keep up, and you're not as tanky as the rest of the guys. So if you're not perfectly placed all the time, and as you said, at that time, the carry was just in Somi mode. He didn't even notice almost that his supports died. So they were really pushing it. So it's
Yeah,
not surprising that they have one death, but it's super impressive that in this close race that they managed only to die once.
definitely. Any other thoughts on the teams here before we get into the clips?
Not really. It's like I feel very very sorry for Ciceren and Team Method. It's like you can see that they were so worn out today, and then they got Cis death, and then like okay, we can probably push Nugi in the last few levels. And then he died as well after respecking and doing all the work. And Cis is a popular streamer, so like every 5 minutes somebody comes in and asks him about his new build and why he's doing it, and he has to explain. It was kind of heartbreaking.
It definitely is a little memey there with Zizarin, but hopefully he stays strong through the flame. I do think that the best thing to come out of this race is that now in all pretty much all racers chats you can say Method lost to this to these top 8 players. So make sure to go ahead and leave that in the chat whenever they do something a little questionable.
Also, a sort of cool side note is that like Rise actually had more viewers than Cicerone, and that's not very common. Cis usually like 2 to 1 size, and when I logged on, when none of the big teams were online, I think Outcrying had close to 2K viewers, and that's really a boost for him.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of these top carry players getting quite a lot of publicity. I mean, I think it's well deserved for how much effort they put in. All right. Any other thoughts before we get into the Noogie clips here?
I think we should do the Noogie clips. I
All
think you
right.
could show the Cis clip as well, right? Because it's so fresh and not. It's always nice to see people die.
All right. Why not? We'll throw in the Ziz clip and the Rise clip. Why not? All right. Here we go.
Okay, you're swapping then, which is nice. Go optimal storm call links, just arguably better.
I nearly killed myself.
Wow.
Don't do that.
Don't do that, he said.
And you can go
It
You-
off
was
from
pretty
callings,
funny because it's sort of a
arguably better.
meme of him dying to reflect that. I think he's just clearing out his atlas
kill
and
myself.
doing like a pre-rolled map or
That-
something, and it's just. I'm not sure if it's moving his
There's
elder
nothing
or
then,
trying
which
to
is
complete
nice.
a map or something, but it's just.
And you can go off
Yeah, it is
from
most
It's so
likely.
lucky.
arguably better.
Yeah, it is most
It's so
likely
lucky.
just trying to move that that elder
Kill
influence,
myself.
Shaper Elder. Let's go ahead and see when he opens up his atlas here. Where's
And it's so
Marsh's?
lucky that he doesn't hit the big pack there, or a pack with a little more HP, which just been toast.
Oh, he is filling out the map over here. This is what Marsh's is. So he's trying to get that little bit of extra bonus, and like you said, just doesn't even notice.
Arguably better.
I think this is less than an
I'm gonna kill
hour
myself.
after Sis is dying.
Definitely a little question mark there, but getting straight into the actual Nugi clip. I haven't heard the audio for this yet. I was in class when this happened, and I remember thinking like, you know, it's just Nugi's not using a life flask. Hopefully that will be okay, but
Okay, we'll just kill him like this.
it
I think you're just getting clipped by the double rain of arrows there, right?
yeah. So if you didn't know that this canyon boss uses Vol Rain of Arrows at times, and that stops you from being able to move. You can see right here that he's unable to move right there. The only way you can actually move of some sort is to use a mobility skill such as Flame Dash. So by the second he realized it, it was already too late.
Yeah, and he's standing in the caustic arrow, and just
Mhm.
everything is bouncing on him. And Havoc is like telling him to be a little bit careful, but
Okay, we'll just kill him like this.
too late.
Oh,
Yeah, they'll just kill him, I guess.
oh, you died.
Actually, then.
You can almost hear the tilt in Havoc's voice there. I mean,
It's a fiction. It's okay.
Almost
Oh,
forcefully
you died.
trying to
Actually,
stay
then.
calm.
yeah.
It's a fiction. It's okay. Fiction. It's okay.
You can tell. You can just tell, dude. The level that Havoc is upset is just. I mean, like I think he deserves to be that upset though. He did switch off his main Inquisitor, Stormbrander, just to help out the team, but the team definitely did not you know keep up hold up to his expectations. So was a very unfortunate run for Method, but hopefully they can secure that third place with Havoc. And then
So like this might be stirring up a little bit of controversy, but like they are pushing Sis and Nugian as two of their like main cores in this setup. Do you think that's like, and if you look at the accomplishments, I think Steel and Havoc probably have more racing accomplishment than both of those. Do you think that's mainly due to to their viewer base, or is it that they just decided that as a team?
So there are a lot of people going back and forth. You know, some people say it's because Ziz has the bigger viewer base. It's because some say Ziz is the able to play for longer hours. You know, Havoc kind of wants to just not take it slow by any means, but Havoc wants to be hyper efficient when he's playing. Whereas, as you could tell, Zizarin is was playing a little bit like Rise and just playing that extra little bit. So it's gonna have to be up to their opinion. Hopefully we can get like a statement from Team Method at some point in the future. But I definitely do agree with you, young Steezy. Havoc is probably, if not definitely, the best player on the whole team. But a little unfortunate to see him go to the side. Although I do think the rest are still very, very good players. So, any other comments before we go and check out the Rise and Scissor and Rip once again?
Oh, let's head over.
All right. Yeah, these are just too good, right? These are just too pivotal. All right, let's get the audio going.
I went bye bye. Nah, this was fucked anyway. Sorry, guys.
You can just see the relief that he has
Damn.
logging on to his next hardcore character. I believe that is his synthesis hardcore.
Nah, this was fucked anyway. Sorry, guys.
Oh no, he logs on to standard. Okay.
Ah.
This is kind of the same as I feel this is very similar to Caesar's Rip. It doesn't have a support. He's doing a map that's very hard rolled, and also I think he said that he shouldn't be killing that boss because it's like the two-face boss now, so it's a little bit awkward, and he has two of them, and things just go to shit. I think it just at that point they were far behind, so he almost like had stopped caring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there with a the not playing with the support and rolling a dangerous map. But I would like to bring up that in a push like this, I'm sure he's done tons and tons of super dangerous maps, and yeah, I just want to bring up the fact that it's only a matter of time before something like this were to happen, and if you look at the comments online, basically everybody across the board says he's a little silly. I'll just say that. He's rolling maps that are super dangerous, but I guarantee you that a lot of maps are just as dangerous. It's not like this is the one exception out of 1,000 maps that he forgot to check. It's maps like these that are really juiced up that you don't really expect to die in all the time. Maybe you just don't check for it every time, but nobody's gonna really check for minus max all that much, to be honest. And I mean, the same kind of applies to the Scissorin Rip, where you're not obviously you're checking your maps, but just because something has crit on it doesn't mean you shouldn't run it. And I think both rips are pretty similar situations. You can see him get a stun locked here on that 20 hours of constant gameplay. Definitely super tired. So
Yeah, I think like it's very interesting with the map mods. Of course, it depends on your character and everything, but like I think I remember Marty was talking about he found more HP as the most dangerous mod because then the creeps didn't die, so they actually hit him.
yeah, definitely is actually pretty underrated how dangerous that is, especially with increased boss life, which does appear to be on this map. So just super super dangerous overall. But as I mentioned, there's probably a ton of maps that he's run just like this one, and all it took was the stun lock there, the ink AOE, just to end it all. Any comments on the Rise Grip before we go over to Zizaran?
Let's head over to Cicerin.
All right, let me bring it up here really quick. I like this clip the first time I watched it because I didn't know what he was going to die to. Okay.
Oh, I got one hit.
All the other clips I watched were like 5 minutes
Oh my
prior.
fucking god. Oh, I got one hit.
Yeah, you can see very dangerous map here, but again, you know, it's not like he's intentionally rolling these or anything.
Crying and the guys were like almost gashing at him at their walling their tier 16s, not tier 15s. They thought that was like an a little unacceptable risk.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think Bloodlines is the much safer call. Also allows for the nice amount of XP as well, or map sustain and XP. Sorry. Can tell that that is an instant death there with the one shot. I mean, before the animation even goes out, he's dead. So really not much you can do there except for just not put yourself in the situation. But it's not really situations like this where you expect to get just absolutely demolished.
So I guess we can spend like 10 minutes going over the gear and have a quick look at the new support that Ty rolled up.
Yeah, sure. Do we want to look at Crying's gear at all? I mean, it's pretty much the exact same as last time, but
I get we have quite a few new viewers, so we can like quickly go over Crying Scare and then
all right.
a Rat Scare, and then have a quick look at the new support setup from Ty.
Sounds good to me. For the wands, really just the additional cast speed is all you want. The reason why profane wands are so good is because you can see that 14% increased cast speed there, as well as on the other wand. That is just comes with the wand, And so being able to get that juicy cast speed means that not only will his Winter Orb be charging up faster, his Winter Orb will be hitting faster, as well as that his Flame Dash is just way faster. Definitely makes him much faster, do a lot more damage. On top of the gain non-chaos damage as extra chaos, it is still an incredibly good craft. Definitely something to look forward to if you do use a spellcaster. Should not be underrated by any means. Looking at the helmet here, we have the increased area of effect, but it's not too big compared to the 98 life and the what is that? That's like a 72% resist helmet. Definitely super nice there. For the amulet, again, you just want cast speed, life, and resistances. You can tell he's just stacking up that cast speed to insane amounts. Speaking of cast speed, looking at this other ring with 6% more on that opal ring, just for the tiny bit of extra damage, with a little bit of crafted res. The other ring really just there for the chaos res. I think the life obviously very important, but the life and the chaos res together really just synergizes super well. The game itself balances around, well, I shouldn't say balance, but kind of expects you to have negative 75% chaos resist, and so having just a couple sources of chaos resistance does make you take significantly less damage from those chaos spitters in the Vol incursion encounters, as well as just any time that you're encountering chaos damage mobs. The the Adziri steps here with the Leech enchant. The Leech enchant is due to Kamel running that Cruel Lab, and so the Adziri steps is also due to Kamel running Adziri. And really, these boots are just for the chance to dodge spell hit. Crying has really opted for a dodge character here, and although I'm not a huge fan of dodge, it is a super nice layer of defensive. And so personally, I would probably divine these boots up to 16% chance to dodge spell hits, but perhaps it's not quite worth the extra little hassle there. Looking at the belt, super nice belt with the removes chill and freeze, the reduced damage from critical strikes, and obviously the 100 and I think that's 36 life there. And the spell damage is just a little bit extra. Really just gigantic life. Keeps him safe from those crits. If he does run into a double beyond or a beyond boss with that crit mod, will mean that he's taking 30% less. Super big there. The gloves, 84 life, quite a bit of res, and as I mentioned, with a little bit of chaos res, he is fairly tanky. And going on to the chest piece here, the carcass jack. I mean, the ideal male figure here would be the impulses, but unfortunately, very rare T0 unique or T1. I'm not quite sure on that one, but he is using the 2120 Winter Orb, the faster casting, the infused channeling, the increased duration, hypothermia, and GMP. You can see his flasks here, the instant life flask, the bleed removal, the Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline. If you want to go faster, make sure you're using this one. He has the Shock Removal Flask as well as the Curse Removal Flask. I'm not going to talk about the tree too much as it is your standard Trickster Winter Orb character that we have gone over a few times for Crying. Or, sorry, not Trickster. Crying is an Elementalist, but you can see that he opts for quite a lot of defensives. And I believe it was said earlier that he's immune to reflect damage, but that's not actually true as he's not taking Paragon of Calamity, so he is still prone to, one-shotting himself in a sense if you were to put in a bad map. But as Crying is rolling all of his maps, there's pretty much no risk. Raindog, any thoughts on Crying's character here?
So at the moment he is at like 6,750 HP, 400 shield. With his flask actives, he has 52% chance to dodge and 56 spell dodge. He has a slightly positive chaos resistance and is capped all the way. He has quite a few utility jewels. He has a blind jewel, an onslaught jewel, and some jewels that give him a little more movement speed. I'm not sure if he had this earlier. Did he pick up all the walker nodes earlier?
Which walker nodes?
It's the lightning walker, the frost walker, and fire walker.
I don't think he had all of them, but he definitely did have the lightning walker, and I think the frost walker as well.
So it gives him a little more flexibility in his gearing. Even though he's probably not taking that much advantage of the fire damage. It's just...
Yeah, so the extra little cast speed is really just for Flame Dash there, since there's not much else he can get with these points. I mean, like, he's not really looking at any more life. The only option would be possibly going Mind Over Matter, but at this point, I'm not quite sure if it's worth it. And then I also just wanted to note that the blind enemies on hit Jewel I don't believe applies because he's using spells and not attacks.
Yeah, that's probably correct. He's probably just using it as it's almost 50 life and
Yep.
24 resist. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's head over to Rob.
All right, let me see which one is Rathalos here. That's Havoc. Here's Rathalos. Alright, so with Rathalos, we do have the damage penetrates fire resist and the trigger a socketed spells when you use a skill. This does mean that every time he uses phase run, it's gonna shoot out one little blade vortex, maybe give or take a little bit more. With the increased critical strikes and the added lightning damage support, that is to proc his passives here, Elemental Equilibrium. So he'll cast phase run. It'll put out a blade vortex. The blade vortex will deal lightning damage, and so that means that all the mobs around him will have more lightning resist and less fire resist. On top of that, he's using the blade vortex with increased critical strikes, meaning that he has permanent uptime on his elemental overload here. He has the broken crown, which is just a super nice chaos res ES base here, or just a really good unique overall if you are going for a hybrid build. You cannot actually activate Righteous Fire as a CI character, and so you do have to have some form of life. And so mitigating Chaos Res in every way possible is very crucial to the build. You can see he's just got the percent energy shield helm here with or amulet with a bit of extra Chaos Res to boot. He's got a 300 energy shield, I guess, with 109% increased critical strike chance. This is a very good shield here. I don't think there's any open spots there for the slam. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure there's not. There should be 6 mods already. The Syntrek, obviously just a super nice boots. Very difficult to replace these in a race to 100 in my opinion. I guess his group could be fossil crafting for that replacement, but really Syntrek are just all you need as an energy shield character. One thing I like to note about Rathalos is that he did change out his belt to a belt that was vaulted for increased area of effect. He is using that for the increased clear speed, and so that does give him a tiny bit of flask effect duration, but really it is just for that implicit with the increased area of effect. He did switch off the beta breath, which means that he might not be quite as tanky, but still pretty good there with the 41 energy shield from it. Looking at the gloves, same gloves as he's used for the past few days here. 160 ES, some fire res to boot, pretty nice. The rings, just some life ES resists. And this one is actually with energy shield, well, tiny bit of energy shield, but really just the curse enemies with level 5 despair on hit. Definitely a super nice pickup there, but he is using the blasphemy, flammability, and despair setup, so it's not quite as good as it would be if he wasn't using that setup. He does have the Vol Righteous Fire setup here with burning damage, elemental focus, increased area of effect, and swift affliction. And now you can't just put swift affliction on Righteous Fire because swift affliction only works for skills that have a duration. And so to add that duration tag necessary to use swift affliction, you do have to throw on an arcane surge on there. Looking at the flask really quick, he's just got a sulfur flask of warding just for some more regen. Definitely super nice pickup there. The jade flask of staunching, the ruby flask of heat. This does help him, take a little bit less fire damage, especially as these, primarily energy shield characters. They don't need that life flask, so they can use the defensive flasks, such as the topaz flask. This one is of grounding, and once again, the alchemist quicksilver flask of adrenaline. Looking at the tree real quick, we do have a pretty stock standard righteous fire not elemental, sorry, righteous fire occultist. With just this jewel node being a little interesting, as well as the minion nodes over here. Raindog, do you have any thoughts on Rathalos' character here?
So we can do the quick sum up again. He has 2.3k life, almost 8k energy shield, and his chaos resistance is 70.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he's taking quite a much advantage of the spiritual aid node, both with one of his weapons that has quite a lot of minion damage and also some of the jewels. So you give them a little more flexibility for that. I'm not quite understanding why he's picking up the reduced mana reservation. Do you
So
have any?
So the reduced mana reservation really helps him keep up this triple curse that's in, well, double curse here. The flammability, the despair, the blasphemy, as well as being able to use the discipline here does take up quite a bit of mana, and he is using enhance in his boots, so it does make discipline take up quite a bit of extra mana. And so you can see that this is 35%. It should be, I think, 35% on both of these. And so he does need it so that he can still cast around with his Flame Dash and his Phase Run.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's have a look at the last support, and then we're looking forward to finishing up tomorrow.
Are we looking at Zizaran here?
No, no, no.
Oh, Tie23?
Yeah, I think we should tie. That's sort of the only other interesting aspects. Like
Yeah.
looking at match setup, it's like basically they're at least 1 day behind.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Alright, looking at Tie23, he has a very similar setup to what he was using before. He was using the Supreme Truth weapon on his previous character, which does give that little bit of extra experience, but definitely playing a little bit safer here, going the Ephemeral Edge. I definitely think it's the right call. He's got a nice ES helmet with a little bit of res. Just a couple curses here, Blasphemy, Enfeeble, Temporal Chains with that level 2 Enlighten, helping out a little bit with the mana reservation. In the shield, he has Zealotry, Enfeeble, and Generosity, so the Zealotry really is getting that extra benefit there. We have the boots, or sorry, I should go over the rolls themselves. Just Energy Shield here on the shield with a little bit of res. On the boots, it's really just 30% move speed, a bit of ES. Do have the phase run, increased duration, Vol Discipline, and what seems to be Spirit Offering. I think not quite sure how that benefits the team, but I know that helps with Necromancer as a solo player. But going on to the belt here, we do have a really nice Crystal belt, the 129 Energy Shield, quite a lot of resistances, as well as the increased effectiveness of Flask does make him not only tankier but faster with the Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline here. We do have the gloves here with the Vigilant Strike, increased duration, Immortal Call, and the cast when damage taken. This does just give Fortify to his team, provided that he's using the Jewel, if not just Fortify to himself, if he's not able to shield charge in place. In the chest piece here, he does have, let's see, Smite, Curse on Hit, Generosity, Elemental Weakness, and Frostbite. Now, we've mentioned this setup before, but just to go over it again, basically, Tie23 will run into a pack and hit them with Smite. And so by hitting them with Smite, it grants allies 10 to 195 added lightning damage, which is further increased by Generosity here with the 38% increased effect. And so that's just super nice overall. And then of course we've got the Curse on Hit, the Elemental Weakness, and the Frostbite helping out Crying definitely by quite a large margin. And then anytime the monsters get super close, they'll be Blasphemy, Enfeebled, and Temp Chance. So I don't think we see the quad curse here, but I could be wrong. Taking a quick look at the passive tree. Oh, we should go over the jewelry really quick. The amulet is really just energy shield, a little bit of dexterity, possibly for some gems, and the increased maximum energy shield is a really important role, especially for any ES-based character. We did see it on Rathalos as well, and so I just thought I should mention that. On the other rings, it's really just the energy shield and the resistances with a little bit of faster start of ES recharge. Just makes it nicer for him as an occultist. As an occultist, you do basically finish recharging your ES for quite a while, provided that if you start regenerating it recently. And so it's a fairly standard aura bot, curse bot, hybrid here. Definitely a super good build for that team play. Any thoughts on the character here, Raindog?
Yeah, as we mentioned last time, he's combining the Smite with Elemental Equilibrium and Avatar of Fire. So basically, he's giving lightning damage to his carry, and lowering their fire, their lightning and cold resist, because it's converting everything. So that's a very nice setup if it's able to do it, quite improving their single target. I think the biggest difference from his previous support is this is a full CI support. He picked up the Chaos Annihilation, and they have gotten quite nice CI gear, as you already said. He's sitting at a little bit over 10.5k ES, so I think he's not as likely to die.
Yeah, definitely super tanky there. Just trying to keep him alive so that Crying can push at that level 100 within most likely the next 12 hours or so.
As you said, it's not really that much to note. It's like sort of a side fun fact, as you mentioned. He was using the sept. He was using the Feral Edge on his previous character, and then he switched it to the scepter that gave him extra XP, and then he died just a little bit after. So now he's back at the maximum energy shield gear again.
Definitely the right call there. Any other thoughts before we head on out?
I don't think so. Most likely they will be done by our cast tomorrow, so maybe I'm not sure how it works out with your schedule. If you should try to just do a summary or something, sum up how the race went and everything.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. We can definitely do a sum up and just our thoughts on the teams, maybe on just a separate highlight or just a little bit afterwards. But
And if anybody in the chat has a quick question, it's the time to do it now before we sign out.
yeah, just going to take a quick look at Ty's flask here. He does have the Topaz Flask of Staunching, the Chemist Flask, Stibnite Flask of Heat, the Chemist Basalt Flask of Dousing, of course the Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline, and the Chemist Silver Flask of Warding. So super nice flask here, 20% across the board, nothing to really note. He is using the two of the jewels from Act 8 that you get. Super nice. Conqueror's Efficiency is just for that reduced mana reservation, as well as increased skill effect duration, but mostly for the mana reservation. And the Conqueror's Potency is mostly just for the, it's useful for everything here. The increased effectiveness of your curses, the increased effectiveness of your flask, and the increased effect of your non-curse auras is just, the dream support jewel. Alright. Hey, that seems to be it. Any last thoughts before we go here, Raindog?
From me, have a nice day, everybody.
Yep. Bye, everyone. Bye.